Hello and welcome. You're watching NewsX with me, Devika Chopra. A 27-year-old Indian student from Telangana's Rangareddy district was shot dead in a suspected robbery when thieves opened fire at a store where he worked part-time in Milwaukee, US. The victim, identified as Gampa Praveen, was pursuing his master's degree in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. His father, Ragavalu, has shared that he had received a WhatsApp call from his son in the morning but missed it. When he called back, a stranger answered, claiming to have found his son's phone. The victim's friends later informed the victim's family members that Praveen had been fatally shot during a suspected robbery attempt. US authorities have stated that the exact cause of death will be determined following an autopsy. Meanwhile, the Indian Consulate General in Chicago has assured all possible help and support to the family members of the deceased Indian student. The question really that arises is, why can the US not control gun violence? I take that question forward. I have with me Ambassador Ashok Sajanar. We have with us Dr. Manika Verma, International Affairs Expert, Major General Rajan Koshar, Defence Expert, and Major General Sanjay Meston, Senior Defence Expert, also with us on the broadcast. Let me begin with Ambassador Ashok Sajanar. Ambassador Sajanar, I want to understand from your perspective, the fact that this is not the first such shooting attempt. Now, the reason why we are discussing it is because a person of Indian origin and an Indian studying in the US has been shot dead. But imagine the circumstances and the scenario where this child has been sent abroad by his parents. They've probably put in all of their money to make that happen. And then you have this hard-working kid who's wanting to clearly work in the tech sector, because that's exactly what he was pursuing, who's working part-time in a store in the United States of America, and there's a robbery attempt and he's just shot dead. And like I said, this is not the first such case, but can we begin to have that conversation with the US on when this will be the last? Because the United States of America seems to have its eye with the new government on all things except the problems within their own country. They want to talk about tariffs and they want to talk about this and that. When will Donald Trump and others talk about gun violence in America?
Yeah, thank you very much, Devika, for having me. You are very right. I think your introduction is very appropriate. You mentioned it clearly that this is not the first time. And we have known that these instances that take place against Indians, people of Indian origin, Indian students, businessmen, etc., they have been quite common. They have been quite frequent. But let me also mention that the killings that take place of the Americans in American schools and numbers that die as a result of that, whether it is small children in schools or elsewhere in shopping malls, etc., that is way, way higher than, the number of Indians who are killed. We, of course, as you said very correctly, we are looking at this whole case because it is an Indian student who has been brutally murdered as a result of this robbery attack that has taken place. But, you asked, when will the Americans start looking at their own domestic problems? In fact, their own domestic problem is of a much greater, proportion, much greater significance than of the outsiders. So the Americans need to do it not for any outsider, for Indians or otherwise people of different nationality, but for themselves. That having been said, we cannot expect any relief whatsoever from a Republican dispensation. It is the Democrats who were fighting, who have been arguing for, control on gun licensing and that, guns, their sale, etc., needs to be curtailed, needs to be contained. But of course, the Republicans are totally against it because They look at it as their, constitutional right, as the fundamental right. Under the Constitution, they have been given the right for self-protection and for carrying arms. And so they don't want to concede anything on that. The National Rifle Association is also, it's a very powerful body. They are very strongly behind this, that everyone should have the right to carry arms. And till that time this goes on, there's no way that you can control this or contain this. As I said, even the Democrats, they were in power for the last 4 years. They made appropriate noises, but they were really not able to do anything on the ground. And I have very scant, if any, hope that the Republicans will even lift a little finger in the direction of stopping this gun violence. I think the best that we can expect is that this case is taken, pursued seriously, and those who are responsible, that they are caught and action is taken against them, exemplary action taken against them, so that at least it sends out a very strong and a clear message. But of course, this is heart-rending as far as the family of this young man who was killed so brutally. This is heartrending for him and for families of other people, Indians or otherwise, who have died in such heinous activities and crimes. Devika.
I'm going to put something further in perspective now. Between March 2023 and January 2025, as per reports, 10 Indian students have lost their lives in the United States of America. Koeda Ravi Teja, 26, was completing his master's degree from Chicago University and was shot dead in Washington, D.C. while delivering a food order in January 2025. So this has just happened, this case. Sai Teja, a 22-year-old MBA student, was shot dead at a Wisconsin convenience store in November 2024. Abhijit Paruchiri, a 20-year-old engineering student at Boston University, was found dead in his car in March 2024. Vivek Saini, a 25-year-old, was killed by a homeless man at a Georgia convenience store where he worked for refusing to give him free food. Veera Saish, 24-year-old, was shot dead at a fuel station in Columbus, Ohio in July 2023. So like I said, unfortunately, the latest case which has come to light is not the only one. But Major Rajan Kochar, the reason why it's important for us to put these deaths into perspective is because most of these students, either pursuing their MBAs or their engineering or whatever, it doesn't matter what they're studying. Basically, they're students who've gone to the United States of America to pursue higher studies, and they also end up either taking up some sort of odd jobs, which is very common for students to do, especially in countries abroad where they somewhere have to look after their own pocket money or earn a living on the side while studying. Imagine if the situation were reversed and we were to present a list of 10 American students who have just been killed simply for studying and living in India. The conversation around the world would be very different about the safety. I don't remember the last time, Major Rajan Kochar, we had a conversation about an American student or a student from abroad studying here and being killed for maybe working in a convenience store or trying to earn a living to sustain themselves in our country. How is it that we're not able to have that sort of a conversation with the United States of America, where we have to somewhere draw the line that, listen, first you want our talent, you want our brains to come and study there, and when they do, you can't even provide a secure environment. So what are you going around lecturing people for?
Devika, I think the perspective you have brought in discussion right now, it actually merits a larger debate. And racial discrimination remains a significant issue as far as the United States is concerned. You can take the educational institutions, you can take the criminal justice and the daily social interactions. I have a data here. 2023, 52.5% were the reported hate crimes in the United States, motivated by race, ethnicity, and ancestry. So this writing is on the wall, and this issue cannot be put under the carpet, as you rightly said that 10 Indians have lost their lives in the last 1.5 years. So I think it is the right time for the Indian government to come up with a strong response to the United States, because the United States needs to look into it. A large number of our people, it is not only us, the others also are going to the United States in the hope of getting a higher education, a good career, and a good job. So I think this is an issue which needs to be strongly highlighted. And when you look at the diversity, equity, inclusion initiatives, DEI it is called in the United States, you find, I am absolutely astonished to read. Yesterday I was going through an article. Some of the states have started targeting this DEI because it's not required, they say. This kind of laws or this kind of inclusion. And unfortunately, in the United States, not everything is controlled from the federal laws, because this gun culture, as we have to actually bring in this second aspect, apart from racial discrimination, we also have to bring in this gun culture in the United States. There are 400 million guns freely floating among the population in the United States, and most of them are unlicensed. As a matter of fact, every state in the United States has its own law which is regarding the licensing, and there are three states, Texas, Arizona, and Tennessee, which do not have any restriction. Uh, they don't believe in licensing of weapons at all. Anybody and everybody can actually carry these. So what happens is, when you have this kind of a rage, or you get into an argument, and you find a very pliable target in the form of an Indian there, and you know that not much hue and cry will be made in the United States. Because if you kill an American, you will find it will be in the headlines everywhere. But if you kill an Indian, I think it goes unnoticed. So a channel like yours, I think, is doing a very great service in having this discussion, and we need to bring it to the international stage also, to highlight these concerns of ours to the United States. And also, there has to be an advisory. My last point is, there has to be an advisory. Our students have to be educated that which are the dangerous areas where you should actually avoid going, because most of the incidents I'm seeing in those areas which are notorious for racial violence. So our students must be educated to avoid these areas. You see, unfortunately, they take up part-time jobs, and they are in petrol pumps at odd hours, about 1 o'clock in the morning, 10 o'clock in the night, where there is no security available to them. So I think they are vulnerable. They need to be told to avoid these areas, always be in populated areas, in safer areas. I think the Indian embassy also must get into this act and start issuing an advisory as soon as any of our student lands up in the United States. A one-page advisory must be handed over to him, and he must be you forewarned that you need to avoid such areas. Devika.
Dr. Monica Verma into the conversation. Dr. Monica Verma, Major Rajan Kochar was just talking about diversity and inclusion and how that has become a major conversation in the US. Just last year, we were discussing another case of a girl called Janvi Khandula, and she was struck by a speeding police officer in Seattle on the 23rd of January 2023. And in the recording that then came out of the entire incident, the cop could actually be, the supervisor could actually be heard laughing it off, saying that it's just some, 20-year-old Indian girl who's been run over, and it's just going to be one small check that will have to be signed to put this matter to an end. So this is the sort of mindset that we're operating at. Yes, on the one hand, we have to talk about gun violence, but somewhere Major General Rajan Kochhar is also right that this could, some of these cases very well could be targeted racism. How does one address that, and how does one prepare our students then to take this challenge on in the United States of America?
Well, Devika, I totally agree with you here. In fact, if we open up the number of cases, take them beyond just students, I think last week there was a very serious attack on an Indian nurse. And the person who had attacked that nurse had gone on the record to say that, oh, she was Indian. And I attacked her because, that's how I went out my frustration. So students are not the only people of Indian origin or people who are going from India to US who are being targeted. It's something, that you rightly put. It's nothing but racial discrimination, and we can easily call it as a case of hate crime. Because, these students of all the cases that you have presented so far on your show, if we look at each of the case individually, what we find that there were certain layers to it, and okay, fine, there is gun violence at one level in the United States, but why is such a high number of Indian students or Indian community people who are being targeted? So this hate crime is something which is taking a very, very serious, which has taken a very serious turn or serious proportion in the last few years if we look at it. Just 2-3 months ago, Vivek Ramaswamy, he was, removed from DOGE and he was put for some other assignment. And there also, the MAGA, the whole Republican support base was responsible for it, because Vivek Ramaswamy kind of spoke about how Indians and, all this is being, all of this is happening. So I think, all right, we understand Trump is a great friend of India, and we also understand that the Republican Party is very important for India's national interest, and a lot is going on in the India-US bilateral equation. But the way Indians are being treated, and the way, especially, the young people or the nurses or people who are working in the healthcare, these are skilled people who are wanted in US. These are people who are invited in the US, who go there with all the legal formalities in place. And they get, after inviting them, after accepting them within the country's fold, such hate crime shows very poorly on the image of United States. Like, you can't just stand up one day and say that we rule the world and we are still more powerful and stuff like that. And also, the previous panelist has very rightly talked about the DEI funding, that on one hand, you are respecting diversity, equality, inclusion, but when it comes to treating one of the most honest, one of the most skilled, one of the most well-behaved communities in the world, this is the kind of record that you produce. So I think there's a lot of soul-searching, introspection, which is required not only within the US dispensation, but I understand the Indian government should also take it up because it's high time.
Okay, I want to bring in Major General Sanjay Meston into the conversation as well. Major General Sanjay Meston, do you feel that it would be enough to perhaps have an advisory sent to our students, or have some sort of a mechanism wherein students that are going abroad, especially to the United States of America, that they're warned of certain dangers, and maybe some help can be extended then by the Indian community itself in helping out some of these students figuring out these part-time jobs? Why is it that we are so okay with our students firstly spending most of their money or whatever, even if they're getting scholarships, some amount of money is spent by hard-working parents to send their child abroad? Why is it that we're okay with our students going abroad and then having to work in dangerous areas and dangerous situations? We do have a large enough Indian diaspora in the United States of America that can maybe chip in and help out in such a situation to figure out these part-time jobs which are really important, so that they can avoid working in, say, places like convenience stores or petrol pumps, where they do become targets of not just racist violence, but generally of gun violence in America as well.
Yeah, Devika, very pertinent issues raised by you. We have to understand the issue with a larger perspective. I recollect when in 1994, I was in 2 UN missions, firstly in Mozambique, and the second one was Rwanda. And in 94 itself, when I interacted with the Indians there in Mozambique and Rwanda, the Indians were doing extremely well in the local business there. In fact, they were dominating. Now, what was the result of that? The result of that was the locals and you know the population what is there, these people would feel very, very jealous of the Indian supremacy in the business. And therefore, I know of cases that time, 94, that people were killed, targeted, homes looted, because they had this whole problem is that Indians have come from India, and as a nation and as a people, we excel in business and we excel in education and we excel in technical knowledge. That is the strength of Indians. And we are very flexible by nature. Indians can adjust anywhere very easily, and adaptability is also equally good. Because of all these factors, since we can adjust anywhere, we can do extremely well. The local people, and especially the youth and the business community, they feel threatened. So point number one is that. Second point is, since the time, of course, President Trump has taken over, and with this DEI initiative, the racial connotation has definitely increased. The way even he's talking about, that I don't want anyone illegal immigrants. And we have seen an example of that, how so many Indians were sent back to India, illegal immigrants, and they were shackled. And of course, chains were put, in their hands. So the handcuffs are put. So they were humiliated. So what it amounts to is, the strategy India needs to adopt is, firstly, you also have been raising very pertinent issue. People are going for education, and obviously they have to work. So one issue is, firstly, why are they going? India is such an attractive country today, and I speak as a patriot Indian, and as an Indian who takes pride in my country. Why today Indians, today everyone, even these immigrants who went from affluent states, Gujarat, Haryana, Punjab, they went over there through this illegal immigration. What recourse they took, they have spent 45 lakhs to 1.5 CR. Look at the students who are going. So why they are going is, first that has to be issued. That has to be a study. Strategy has to be, a national strategy has to be evolved. Why are the people going? Obviously they are going because they feel facilities in India are not good. Everything is not good in India, and outside life is much better. Therefore, the government of India needs to address this. Number one, I think our educational institutes needs to be too good. Yesterday only I was speaking to one of the professors from JNU. We were in a TV show, and he stated something very good, that today students are looking for international relations as a very, very important subject. But can you believe there are hardly any universities in India, or even if they are there, they are not of that standard. So we have to have very, very good universities, education institutes, so that people take pride, and our teachers are good, our everything is good. Why they need to go abroad? Number two is that why people are going abroad is jobs. I think India today, the kind of diversity we have, and our economy is doing well. We are now heading as the third largest economy. So we need to create more jobs. I'm being little practical. Of course, it's difficult. But why are these people going there? Let us keep our own people there, our talented people there. And today you look at whether it is West, you look at America, even eggs are costing so expensive, everything is so expensive. India does not have this kind of problem. Australia is becoming expensive, Europe is becoming expensive, life is so uncertain there. And the fact of the matter is, any country you go and settle down, at the end of it, you are called second-class citizens. Let's face it very bluntly. Even if you go to Dubai, you are a second-class citizen. Even if you go for tourism. So this is our country. Let us take pride, and the momentum should be reversed. Let us have such good institutions, job creation facilities, so that people from abroad, and a lot of people come from Africa and even from West and all these countries. Let large number of people come and let them learn the culture of India. Indian soft power is so good. So the whole problem is, racism has increased. This gun culture, of course, continues. Whether it was President Biden, whether it is President Trump, no one is addressing this gun culture. So the fact of the matter is, firstly, we have to address these issues internally, and even these illegal immigrants who are going. This system has to be made accountable. How these people in an international racket have been sending people, pulling them. Imagine, it pains as an Indian. We are not rich people. 45 lakhs to 1.5 CR people have spent and sent their kith and kin with such misery, small children. Some of them are, dying in the Mediterranean or the Atlantic Ocean, being killed. It is so pathetic. So it has to be a national strategy. Indians should take pride. Facilities, infrastructure needs to be developed so that everyone feels pride as a nationalist. Yes, this is my country, and my country will look after me. The legal system, everything needs to be revamped. Of course, people will go. We can't deny that. But in those things, I think diplomacy needs to be more, I would say, proactive. We have to tell the people, the Indian diaspora there, we have to again educate the people there that Indians are not come here to decimate you or threaten you. We are part of your
Yes.
culture, we are helping you. So all these kind of education even there to the locals so that they don't feel threatened. They don't feel, and as it is Indians by nature, we are not racist. We are most adjustable, most flexible. We are, I think, I would proudly say that today Indians can go to any part of the world and we are most welcome. We are not like Pakistanis who are hated. So these are advantages, but the people need to be educated there by the Indian diaspora, by the Indian consulate, by the Indian,
Yes.
so that people know we are not there to threaten them. We are part of them and we are helping them nation. Like our technical people are going with such technical know-how, we are developing their nation.
Okay.
Today, has got our employees.
Yes.
So today, Indians stop going, they will also collapse.
Okay, all right. I've run out of time, but I thank all of our guests for joining us on the broadcast to take this very pertinent conversation forward.